Welcome back to Nick Lenz's movie review, episode 61. This time I'm reviewing the fourth film of the Star Trek film franchise, The Voyage Home, released in 1986. Now, what famous sci-fi film was released that very year? Why, the sequel to Alien, Aliens. Yep, and it's also a film directed by James Cameron. So two Star Trek films in a row, and the major sci-fi film released the same year these films came. Both films directed by James freaking Cameron. Yep, this one happened again until the release of Undiscovered Country. Yep. Now the film itself, yes, was released in 1986, same year as my parents got married. And the thing with this film is, it's also the first of two films, actually the first of three films. Yeah, I'd say of three films that actually has actual time travel in it. Yep, it's the first one. It's the first one of three. The third one being Star Trek 2009. Yep. This film has a particular thing called the probe. They don't really call it anything else. They just call it this big probe, which in the film looks like a giant oil can with a lava lamp attached to it. Well, part of a lava lamp. That's what it looks like to me, and it's like shutting down ships. Somehow, and apparently the Klingons went after too. That they get referenced once, and they don't give a chance to do much of anything. There is the Klingon bastard who appears in the film. Yeah, he appears in this film and Undiscovered Country. He also appears in a few novels. As what this guy's name is, no idea, because they don't really identify this guy at all. This film also introduces the first time ever in the history of Star Trek, the Federation President. Yeah, first time he's actually introduced in the series. They always place him with a different actor in Undiscovered Country. And after that, the films never had the Federation President ever show up again. The next time they have Federation President show up is actually, believe it or not, Deep Space Nine for a quick little two-parter. Aside from that, they never had the Federation President ever show up again in the franchise. Yep. This is also the second film. This is also the third appearance of the character Sarek, portrayed awesomely by Mark Leonard, by the late Mark Leonard, because he passed away in the early 90s. Yeah. Of course, the film also has stock footage from stuff in the last film. As for how the heck they got their hands on this, never explained, but I can let that slide. Of course, the whole perfectly edited thing, that's basically a plot hole director from the last film. And of course, they show Genesis in the background, even though they don't mention Genesis the whole film. Yeah. And then, of course, after this opening scene, they cut straight to, Vulcan. And there is a line said by a character in the film. This is actually her, believe it or not, this is her second appearance ever in the franchise. And in live action, yeah, this is actually her second appearance in live action. The character would appear once on the animated series in a flashback episode, which is kind of considered to be on the list of stuff to consider canon by Paramount. But the character herself would also appear frequently in the Star Trek novels. I think she appeared in maybe a few comic books, but that's basically it for the character. Yeah, it's Amanda Grayson, who is the wife of Sarek and Spock's mother. And she's human. Apparently, the person who wrote the script for the film gave her an awful line about where he says, yeah, that's some of your flawed human friends. Okay. Yeah. Well, every time I've seen this film, I didn't watch it today, but I remember from watching the film. Every time I see this film, it's always a head slap moment of how stupid the line is. Flawed human friends. Really? Amanda Grayson is human. Did the writers forget that? Apparently they did. In her only appearance in the entire film series, she appears for this one film, and she's never seen again in the film franchise. She's referenced twice. She does appear in the next film, but it's a different actress. And I think this is the same actress who portrayed her on Journey to Babel. But it's overall her second appearance, because here's the thing. After Undiscovered Country, Sarek's next chronological appearance is popping up for 2 episodes next generation, and he's got a different wife. There is an explanation for that. That she died after the events of Undiscovered Country. Yeah, she died, and of course Sarek got remarried to a different woman. Yeah, through a second wife. Yeah, but one thing you gotta love with this film is the humor. The humor is fantastic, and Nimoy, of course, come back for a second film. This is, of course, the last time I can think he's ever directed anything. It seems like with this film, if you watch, like, compare it to Search for Spock, this one I think he feels more comfortable in the director's chair, because last time it was like a first timer, but this film it's a lot better. And this is actually the first time since they do a maneuver in this film that was actually referenced on the show itself, the whole slingshot around the sun. Now, this is not a movie invention. This is something you referenced on the show in the episode Assignment Earth. You know, when they time traveled back into the 1960s. Yeah, that was all the episode they introduced the character Gary 7. Of course, there is a couple things in this movie that actually leave question up in the air, like what happened to them, that get later explained in novels, per se. And, they do make, I should mention this, they do make one change to Klingon Bridge. Virtually, it looks pretty much most the same as it did from last time. The only change they made to it is they got rid of that gigantic step where the captain's chair is. They got rid of that, put that down on the floor, and make it quite even with everything else. That's the only change they made to the bridge itself. Yeah, because, well, that's the thing with Star Trek. Whenever they have a spaceship, like for these films, they have to keep changing the look of the bridge. And my guess, even though it's a Klingon ship, they must have basically did that. Oh, in case you're wondering, what the heck happened to that first officer? This film, the first officer of the Klingon crew for this ship, they never mention him the whole film. There's no mention exactly what happened to him. As far as I can tell, the guy is in fact alive, and he went back to Klingon Empire. My guess is that Kirk must have suggested that maybe he could have taken a shuttlecraft and went back to Klingon Empire. But as far as I can tell, the character is never mentioned again. Oh, and I will get to what happened to Klingon ship soon. Yeah, they go back to Earth, and they don't know about the communication problem yet. They don't know about the probe. Of course, they get to Earth and do a slingshot. Though it's never explained exactly how they avoid the probe, because when they get back to Earth, they basically get affected by the probe anyways. My guess is they must have basically done the whole thing of slingshot. They must have got back to... They don't explain this in the film at all. They must somehow got back to the solar system pretty quickly and probably not see the probe. They probably didn't see it. And they probably got to a certain point in the solar system where the probe was not, and that's pretty much how they does that. Though I should point out, though, it's not the first time in the Star. It's actually the first time in the Star Trek franchise. One of two times, actually one of three times I can think of, where you have an alien spaceship that comes into the solar system. The second time this happened was actually an episode of Next Generation Best of Force Part 2 when you had a freaking Borg cube show up. Yes, and the third time was in First Contact. I'll get to that in the future video. Yep. Now, in the case of, well, the thing doesn't really do very much. I mean, it alters the weather a bit, causes some tidal waves. That's pretty much it. Of course, they have the genius idea of humpback whales. I should point out, though, there is something that's actually not in the film. I remember this from the novel. Novelization. They do mention here that they are worried they might anger the Guardian Forever by going back in time. Which in the film they do not mention him at all. Those know what the heck Guardian Forever is. He's from the classic Next Generation episode City of the Edge Forever in his only live action appearance. Well, he did appear in the anime TV series for like one episode. It's just it looks like pretty much like a giant rock, basically the shape of an eye, and it has like a portal to the past. Oh yeah, and he's basically like the parody version I've seen of him. He pretty much he has a potty mouth. Yeah, that's simply the way he is. Yeah, of course, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy used the time travel back in the 1930s, though mainly prevent McCoy from altering the past. Yeah, and in case you're wondering, Spock himself is wearing the same exact outfit from the last film, and he doesn't change his outfit until the end of the film. He's simply wearing white robes, his white robe from the last film, for pretty much the entire film. And as far as I can tell, there's a good reason for this. Actually, there's no off-screen reason why. I think because they didn't have a uniform available for him, so I'm aware of this. And Kirk himself didn't have a problem with it at all, so there's that. Of course, there is a tad bit of swearing in here. Yeah, this is the first Star Trek film to use the word damn. Yes, it's the first one to use it. It's a slight bit of swearing, and as far as I can tell, the next one used a bit of swearing would not be until Generations. But this one was released in 1986. Yeah. And it was the third film released in the 80s. There was actually one more film after this released in the 80s, and that's Final Frontier, and I'll get to that film in the next episode of this particular film series, the next video for the series. Yep. And of course, to go back to this to 1986, of course, they refer to it as the latter half of the 20th century, which I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea. Also, fun fact, personal fun fact for me, my parents got married that very year. I did not see this movie in theaters. The first movie I saw was the 8th film in theaters. So the first one I ever saw was Generations. Get back to the 80s, there's 80s shenanigans. I have heard something of the ship they used, they describe as the Enterprise, actually a complete different vessel. And, yeah. And from what I can tell about how the ship basically has security around their nuclear reactor, I think it's somewhat accurate. My brother, who's currently staying married now, he works in a nuclear reactor right now, but yeah, that's basically what he does in the Navy. He works in a nuclear reactor. I'm sure that the way they made the Enterprise, the way it's portrayed here, wise, it's somewhat accurate. I'm not really sure if it is or not. But as for having what looks like Marines in the ship, that I think is true. Yes, I think that's true. Oh yeah, they also have this thing where Chekhov gets captured and his devices that he has on him stay behind. Those of you curious though, what the heck happened to these things? Well, believe it or not, this is actually two things actually explained in a novel by Greg Cox, The Rise of Volcano Sea Volume 2. What happened to these things? Gary 7 orders these things to be destroyed by one of his agents. And they do it. They, of course, also introduce this one-shot character appearance in like one scene. It's Glass Factory, of all things, that develops something called transparent aluminum, which is a thing that, as far as I can tell, they never mentioned in Star Trek before or after this, where glass can be like 1 inch thick. This is completely fictitious for the film because I highly doubt they have glass that exists like this in real life. And, of course, the whole thing of building a tank, that's actually, well, they had to build a tank because, well, they're transporting whales. Why the heck not? Of course, transporting water as well. Yeah, as for humpback whales, they kind of decipher that via the message that the ship was set, this probe was sending. And of course, they find 2 humpback whales perfectly fine in what looks like an aquarium. Yes. They describe it as sort of a oceanographic institute. Yeah, but it looks like an aquarium. That's simply the whole gist. But basically, it's like a 1 building aquarium. It's like a big grand, like let's say the Florida Aquarium in Tampa. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, somehow now I should point out though, one of the character Julian, who owns a pickup truck. Those were thinking women don't own pickup trucks in real life. And I would point out to people, yes, I actually know like 3 women who actually own pickup trucks, who actually have an actual pickup truck. One, I don't know if she still has it anymore because I haven't heard from her in like 11 years. The other one did have one, but she sold it. So the whole thing of a woman, the whole stereotype of a woman never owning a pickup truck, that is completely untrue because women do own pickup trucks in real life. So people will say that you're wrong. Because I know people. Yep. Yeah, and of course, make sure about stuff about this that happened in the 70s because, well, the 80s loved poking fun of the 70s a lot. Let's see. And when she gets aboard the Klingon ship, she is a bit amazed on the level of technology, but it's not like, oh my gosh, wow, this place is so amazing. Yeah, it's like the actress who played her, like it's like she probably really wanted to like give like a big reaction to seeing all this other technology, seeing the Spock as a freaking alien. but it's like they really kind of toned it down, and her exposure to transport technology is actually quite interesting, which makes her the first person from the 20th, actually the second person, no, yeah, it's the second person from the 20th century to be exposed to 23rd century technology. The last one was from an episode when they accidentally time traveled to the 1960s with this guy, I think his name is Christopher. I don't remember what this guy's name is. I think it was John Christopher, I think his name is. Yeah, he was an Air Force captain who was beaten aboard the Enterprise, which also resulted in the destruction of his freaking airplane. Yep. Though, difference is, Julian stayed with him in Back to the Future. John Christopher had to stay because he actually had a role to play in the following century, which that character did show up in a novel I read a couple years ago. Yeah. Oh, in case you want to happen to the actress who played Julian, also ended up in Seventh Heaven as the wife of the actor who played Matt Decker from Motion Picture. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, they get back to. Of course, they have this little shocking moment when the whalers are basically like shocked to see this flying ship. Basically, they hit with their harpoon. Yeah, it's a harpoon. That's what basically this thing is. It's basically a ship version. Now, there's a harpoon gun. This basically is a freaking harpoon. Now, whalers generally do use these things, from what I can tell. Though I personally haven't seen in person, but I can tell they do use them. So the film is partially, somewhat accurate to how whalers do kind of act in real life. Yeah. They get to the future, get the whole probe stuff. The ship crashed in the ocean. They release the whales, stuff like that. And, of course, they have their trial. And, yeah, basically he gets given a new command of a ship. I have heard that they give them it's implied like, oh, they're gonna maybe the Excelsior. Nope, it's the Enterprise A, which is the exact replica. Like you think, oh yeah, it looks like the Enterprise A. Like, how the heck did they spring this up so quickly? Well, there is kind of an explanation for this. Okay, because the Enterprise A was originally called the Yorktown, but they changed it to Enterprise A in honor of the previous Enterprise sacrifice. And the other reason why they weren't exactly like all for in prison, but for all the stuff they pulled in the last film, is because they helped save the planet. Of course, they do reference this in Star Trek 6. Yeah, they switched presidents for some reason. I don't know why they switched presidents for. Even though it's only about just a few years apart. It could be maybe the guy lost a re-election, but who knows. Yeah. And yeah, the story basically goes off to whatever, though they kind of ignored something when they screwed the Enterprise and hit the next film. Yeah. But in case what happened to some things. What happened to character Julian? Well, she didn't really appear in the novels after this. No, they didn't really explain what happened to her. They do explain she went to a science vessel, but I read a comic where she's on Earth and she's basically keeping on the whales anyways. The whales themselves only appear in that one issue of this Star Trek comic I read, and that's it. The Klingon ship, from what I read online, it got returned to Klingons with no questions asked. As in the case of the Enterprise A, they went on adventures after this. Basically, there is a book that kind of explains what they did after the events of the film, book Probe. It's been a while since I've read this book, so I don't really remember exactly what happened with that. But this overall didn't have much questions basically need to be asked as you finish watching the film. But stuff is explained later on. There's one thing they do bring back for that Khan novel. The guy who basically gives Sulu, which there was a part for him. That was that, from what I heard, was cut with him and a little kid involved himself with his helicopter stuff. And of course, it was Sulu, Scotty, and McCoy. Though Scotty and McCoy basically met up with this guy. There's a hilarious gag with computers and stuff because, well, 80s when they introduced the whole concept of desktop computers, which I thought was so funny. Yeah, he just does this. This is basically what Scotty does when he sits on the computer. Uses two fingers to basically bring up the formula for bring up transparent aluminum. And so, you want me to hit clear? Like, no. Like, yeah. And of course, McCoy's like, you realize it might be altering history by giving the formula. And Sky points out, though, what if he invents it? What if he invents the damn thing? And McCoy's like, okay, screw it. Give him the damn formula. Yeah, it's particularly quite funny. hmm Yeah, as for the nuclear vessel thing, that's something that's handled to her and Chekhov, which there's like roughly like 3 scenes dedicated to doing this, and that's that. In the case of what Kirk and Spock are up to, they go search for the humpback whales. Yeah, and they spend a good period of time with this. It's even a very fancy dinner, and there's a whole joke about basically, oh, you're like, what is it, money 21st century? That is actually partial, and that's actually an inaccurate statement because they reference money in the Star Trek novels in the original series, where the officers and diplomats actually got paid. Yeah, they got paid. Yeah, the whole thing of like the Federation not having much of an economy, or at least people getting paid, that is actually partially inaccurate. Yeah, the only currency they use is is platinum, which is currency from the Ferengi. That's what they use in the 21st century. I'm not sure what they use in the 23rd century. They could use credits, but who the heck knows? Yeah, but I love the Italian dinner scene is so interesting, and it shows that sometimes Shatner could be a damn good actor. Though it probably would be awkward if this was Spock having dinner at an Italian restaurant. Yeah. Though she gets to meet the Chris Cujo later. Except Checker Smith like did last. And there's of course the whole thing of joke about McCoy at a 20th century hospital. Yeah, because he's a doctor. Why the heck not? He's like, why did you do a mask? Yeah, of course, Kirk pulls out his face like, what is that gun? And he melts the freaking lock and steals the patient. And apparently, they're at this military hospital, which I would think military hospital. Wouldn't you think this be on a military base? They don't show an exterior shot of this hospital. They show like the interior for like a couple floors of this place, but that's really it. hmm Yeah. Yeah, as always, though, when it comes to this particular film, it's just a damn good film to watch. Minor things to ask, but it's pretty forgivable for what it is. Some of the stuff they do next to him is so bizarre. Yeah, but in the case of the Klingon ship itself, they don't. Oh, of course. Oh, in case you wonder, with the whole thing with the whole nuclear vessel thing, that was actually kind of partially Spock's idea. Yeah, because the crystals they use, which power the vessel, they basically use the cells from a nuclear reactor to power up the crystals to give energy to go back to the future. That was the whole point of that. And they use a collector device, which this thing has never appeared in the Star Trek films before or after this film. It's not even mentioned in the novels that they use this damn thing. I don't know if this is actually Klingon technology or this is basically Federation technology. It's never explained. Of course, they do explain early on that the Klingon computer on board the ship can accept Federation memory. So at least basically that's established why they would use like Federation tech on board. As why I still call bullcrap of why a hurricane can go along in the last film. But yeah, the film itself never was explained that. Oh, but there is one other thing I gotta mention this before I close this video. The whole thing with Saavik. Saavik does appear in this film for one brief scene. There was a subplot that was cut from the film where Saavik got pregnant thanks to events in the last film. Yeah, they don't say it here, but that's the reason why she decided not to go along with them. Yeah. Also probably because Robin Curtis probably was just unavailable to do more filming. Yeah. Alright, so that's really it for this particular video. I have one more video planned for today. And I do think I'll probably get time to do it because I'm the only one here anyways. And that'll be a review of Boruto. That'll be soon, okay? But to this next video. Bye.